Marcus, come on. We're talking serious money here, not side projects like yours. My stunning wife said to me at her apartment unveiling dinner in the presence of her colleagues. But the memory was so sharp, so painful, that it often echoed in my mind when I look back on how everything began between us. It felt like a line that divided our life into a before and an after. Before that night, things were different. We had been married for 2 quiet, steady years before Jenna landed her big corporate job. Back then, we shared the same dream of building a better life together. My interior design business wasn't huge, but it was enough to keep our home running and give Jenna the freedom to search for the career she believed would change everything. She spent those years trying to find the perfect role. She didn't want just any job. She wanted something that matched the future we talked about. I supported her completely. I paid for her online courses, workshops, coaching sessions, certifications, and the expensive portfolio classes she believed she needed. Whenever she doubted herself, I reminded her she was talented and would rise one day. She turned down small roles. I carried the home while she reached for something bigger. And when she finally found it, everything started to change. Slow at first, then painfully fast. When Jenna finally got the job she wanted, it felt like a victory for both of us. She joined one of Seattle's biggest marketing and brand strategy agencies as a client account manager. I still remember the excitement in her eyes that first week. She came home every night talking about new tools she was learning, new people she was meeting, and new challenges she wanted to conquer. I was proud of her. I truly was. Her first year at the company was filled with long hours and late nights, but she stayed humble. She was eager to prove herself. She volunteered for difficult tasks, stayed back to help her team, and pushed herself hard. Her colleagues liked her because she was reliable and committed. I watched her grow with a kind of joy I can't fully explain. It felt like everything we had sacrificed for was finally working. At home, nothing had changed yet. She still kissed me when she walked through the door. She still told me about her day. We still laughed over dinner. She still asked about my business and listened with interest. It felt like we were moving forward together. If anything, her success gave me hope. It made me believe that both of us would rise in our own time. There were no warning signs then. Not yet. Jenna's second year at the agency brought the first real shift. It started with her promotion. She came home the day she got it with a bright smile, holding a small gift bag from her team. I hugged her, proud as always, but something inside her had changed. Just a little, but enough for me to notice. Her hours grew even longer. She now attended company events that went late into the night. Some of the invitations were exclusive, meant only for rising stars, as she called them. She began spending more time with high-status colleagues, people who talked big and acted bigger. They fascinated her. She admired how confident they were, how effortlessly they moved through the world. At first, I didn't mind. I wanted her to enjoy her growth. But over time, the distance between us started to show. She came home tired, distracted, sometimes even irritated over small things. She stopped asking about my work. She stopped sharing the little details of her day. Our conversations grew shorter. She wasn't unkind. She wasn't cold. She was just somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't follow, even though I tried. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that every promotion brought pressure, that we would settle again. But deep down, I knew something was shifting under our feet. By Jenna's third year at the agency, the changes in her became impossible to ignore. That was the year she landed a major client project, the biggest she had ever handled. The win came with a huge bonus, loud praise from her team, and a new sharp confidence that seemed to follow her everywhere. Her ambition grew stronger than ever. She wanted more big clients, more results, more recognition. She woke up thinking about work and went to bed with her laptop open beside her. She started using words like executive future and my next level, and slowly, without saying it directly, she began leaving me out of those plans. Then came the company apartment. The agency rewarded her success with a luxury apartment in the business district. It was meant to reflect her new status. Naturally, I assumed we would move in together. We were married after all, but when I brought it up, she shut me down. She said the company housing rules didn't allow non-staff to live there. She told me it was better for her work image if she stayed alone. She handled the entire setup by herself. She never asked for my help, never showed me any plans, and never invited me to see the place. I didn't realize then how much she had started hiding. I would only discover the truth later. The changes in Jenna's behavior became clearer as she settled into the new apartment. She spent most nights there, saying it was easier for her work schedule. She claimed the long commute from our home slowed her down and that late meetings made it unsafe to drive back. At first, I believed her. I trusted her. We had always been honest with each other, and I didn't want to doubt her now. But her visits home became rare. Sometimes she came only to pack more clothes. Sometimes she stayed for less than an hour. Our conversations grew shorter, lighter, and emptier. She talked only about work, about clients, events, new ideas, and the people she now spent most of her time with. The warmth we used to share began slipping away without either of us naming it. Still, I tried to stay supportive. I kept running my design business, even though growth was slow. I kept checking in on her, asking if she needed anything. She always said she was fine, just tired. I didn't know then that her world was expanding while mine was shrinking. I didn't realize how easily ambition could pull two people apart, and even when the distance became obvious, I told myself it was only temporary. I had no idea how wrong I was. Everything began to shift the day Ryan entered Jenna's world. I didn't know his name at first. I only heard her mention a guy from the creative team now and then. She talked about him the same way she talked about others at work, so nothing stood out. But later I would learn how much he influenced the road she chose. Ryan had been at the agency a year before Jenna joined. From the outside, he seemed charming and confident, always smiling, always making bold claims about his ideas. But he was the kind of person who looked successful without actually doing anything that mattered. He didn't handle clients. He didn't pitch. He didn't manage accounts. His job kept him inside the office, safe from real pressure. Still, he had a talent for pretending he was important. And Jenna, hungry for growth, liked the attention he gave her. He called her leadership material. He told her she was on the path to becoming one of the key people in the company. He made her feel seen at a time when she was chasing bigger clients and bigger recognition. I didn't know any of this then. I only knew she talked about him more often. She said he understood her work challenges. She said he supported her ideas. I didn't realize he was watching her ambition and planning how to use it. By early in Jenna's third year at the agency, Ryan saw an opportunity. He learned about a major client Jenna desperately wanted, one that could push her into senior leadership if she landed it. When he heard her talking about it with excitement, something in him sharpened. He wasn't interested in helping her. He was interested in using her. He approached her with confidence, telling her he had personal connections with the decision makers. He said he could open the doors for her, but she needed to invest in the courtship. He made it sound like a smart business move, something only insiders like him understood. Jenna believed him. She trusted his words because she wanted that client so badly. She began spending money the way he suggested: luxury dinners, fancy lounges, private hotel meeting rooms, and expensive client gifts. She said it was all part of getting the deal. She said Ryan knew what he was doing. I had no idea any of this was going on. At home, she only told me she was under pressure. She said there were late meetings and early mornings. I thought she was working hard to build her future. I didn't suspect lies or manipulation. I didn't know Ryan was slowly tightening his hold on her ambition, and she was letting him. The night everything crossed from work pressure into something darker happened in a hotel suite Jenna believed was part of the client courtship. Ryan told her it was necessary. He said the decision makers preferred private settings and that this meeting would seal the deal. Jenna trusted him, so she agreed. I didn't know about the dinner then. I only learned the truth months later. But when she later told me what happened, I could almost picture it. The expensive room, the perfect meal, the dim lights, and the quiet music. A setting built to impress, but also built to blur lines. According to her, Ryan acted like everything was normal at first. But halfway through the evening, he made a move. He touched her hand. He leaned in too close. He said things no colleague should ever say. And Jenna, caught between ambition, flattery, and pressure, gave in. That night was the start of the affair. From then on, Ryan began to pull her deeper. He used her trust to get more. More money, more dinners, more private meetings, more lies. He made it all sound like part of the client chase. And Jenna, desperate for a breakthrough, followed his lead. While she was lost in that world, I was at home, still believing in her, still thinking we were the same couple with the same dreams. I had no idea how far she had drifted. After that night in the hotel suite, Ryan's hold on Jenna grew stronger. He knew she wanted that big client so badly that she would follow any plan he gave her, and he took full advantage of it. He began asking for more expensive dinners, more private strategy meetings, more travel meant only for the two of them. He said everything was for the client, and Jenna believed him. He made her feel chosen, important, and close to a breakthrough that never truly existed. He told her she was the key to landing the deal. He said the client loved the personalized approach. He made every lie sound like the next step to success. And Jenna kept paying. Hotel bills, lounge reservations, flights, gifts, drinks, even falsified receipts for things that never happened. Ryan convinced her to submit some of these receipts to the company as client entertainment expenses. She trusted him enough to think it was normal. Meanwhile, she drifted even farther from me. She stayed at the company apartment almost full-time. Her calls became short and cold. She stopped visiting home unless she needed something urgently. I told myself she was stressed, that she was working hard for our future, that this was just a rough season. But in truth, Jenna was living a double life, and I was the only one left in the dark. While Jenna was slipping into a world I knew nothing about, my own life was staying exactly the same. My interior design business was still modest. I worked hard every day, hoping for growth, but progress came slowly. I wasn't earning big money, but I remained steady. I believed that if I kept learning and improving, things would eventually turn around. Even though Jenna was distant, I still tried to be there for her. I checked in often. I asked if she had eaten, if she was resting enough, if she needed help with anything. Most times she replied with short, tired messages like, busy or later. I held on to hope because holding on felt easier than imagining something was wrong. Some nights I sat alone in our living room wondering when we stopped being the couple who talked about everything. I blamed the long work hours. I blamed the pressure of her new role. I blamed the city. I blamed the company apartment. I blamed everything except the person I trusted the most. Looking back now, I realize I was slowly breaking without even knowing it. I was losing my wife piece by piece, but because I loved her, I kept making excuses for her absence. I didn't know that the unveiling dinner would soon show me the truth I had avoided for too long. I first heard about the apartment unveiling dinner through a short, flat message from Jenna. There's a small dinner at the apartment this weekend. You can come. No excitement, no warmth. It felt more like a notification than an invitation. Still, I told myself she was stressed and tired. What I didn't know then was that she never planned to invite me at all. Later, I would learn that during a team meeting, Adeline, her immediate senior, had said, "I can't wait to finally meet your husband at the unveiling. You've spoken about him so well." Jenna had smiled and agreed, pretending everything was normal. But in reality, she hadn't mentioned the event to me at all. Adeline's comment forced her to include me. She couldn't risk looking strange or secretive in front of her colleagues. When I arrived at the building on the evening of the dinner, I had no idea about any of this. I only felt the heaviness of walking into a world Jenna never shared with me. The building looked impressive, the kind of place people bragged about. I took the lift up, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling in my chest. Jenna opened the door before I knocked twice. She wasn't surprised to see me. She had already prepared for this moment, but her smile was tight, controlled, almost nervous. Inside, her colleagues turned to greet me, and for the first time, I met Adeline. She welcomed me warmly. I just wished Jenna had done the same. As the night went on, I tried to stay calm, even though something inside me felt heavy. Jenna moved around the apartment confidently, guiding her colleagues from room to room. They praised every detail: the lighting, the colors, the layout, the furniture. It was clear she enjoyed the attention. I stood near the dining table watching her proudly show off a life I knew nothing about. Then it happened. A woman from her team paused at the living room wall and said, "This accent color is perfect. Whoever chose this has great taste." I smiled politely and replied, It's nice, but I probably would have gone with a warmer shade. It brings out depth better in small spaces. It was a simple, harmless comment. I wasn't trying to outshine anyone. I was just speaking from my experience as a designer. But before I could say anything else, Jenna spun around sharply. Her voice cut through the room. Marcus, come on. We're talking serious money here, not side projects like yours. The room fell silent. Her colleagues stared at me with awkward eyes. My throat went dry. I felt my face burn, not just from the words, but from the way she said them, loud enough for everyone to hear. In that moment, it became clear I no longer fit anywhere in the world she was building. After Jenna's harsh words echoed through the room, the dinner slowly shifted into quiet, uncomfortable chatter. People tried to pretend nothing had happened, but I could feel their eyes on me. Some looked away quickly. Others gave small, awkward smiles. I stood near the living room wall, trying to steady myself. That was when the deeper truth hit me. As I looked around the apartment again, I noticed details I had missed earlier. The bold accent, walls, the expensive floating shelves, the custom lighting, the dramatic decor choices. These weren't random touches. They belonged to a well-known high-end designer whose work I recognized from trade magazines. Flashy, trendy, extremely expensive. One of Jenna's colleagues confirmed it without knowing what it meant to me. The company really spent big, she said. The designer Jenna picked is top tier. They don't come cheap. Company money. So the apartment I was seeing, the one she never invited me to, never showed me, never discussed with me, had been redesigned using funds from her employer. Funds she could have steered toward me if she had wanted to, if she had believed in me the way I believed in her. I wasn't upset because she chose someone else. I was hurt because she didn't even offer me the chance. And then, in front of everyone, she made sure they all knew I didn't belong in her new world. The drive home after the dinner felt longer than usual. I hadn't planned to stay late, but somehow I ended up being the last person to leave. Jenna's colleagues said their goodbyes cheerfully, waving at me as if the apartment was already familiar to me. I didn't think much of it at the time. I simply assumed they were being friendly. I still believed Jenna when she told me that company housing rules didn't allow non-staff to stay there. That rule was the reason I never tried to spend the night. In my mind, it made sense. Jenna didn't walk me out. She stood by the kitchen counter, gathering empty glasses. She didn't explain her harsh words from earlier. She didn't mention the design. She didn't apologize. She just handed me my coat and said, "I have an early morning. Good night." As I stepped into the hallway, the silence felt heavy. I tried to tell myself she was tired, stressed, overwhelmed, but the truth kept pressing on my chest. The apartment, the luxury designer, the polished life, it all felt distant from the world we once shared. After the unveiling dinner, something deep inside me shifted. I had been embarrassed before in small ways, but nothing compared to what I felt that night. Standing in that apartment, surrounded by Jenna's well-to-do colleagues, people dressed in expensive clothes, talking about high-level projects, fancy trips, and impressive salaries, I felt like I was shrinking. They carried themselves like they belonged in that world, and I realized I didn't. Not even close. Their confidence filled the room. Their laughter sounded loud and bright. Their conversations moved quickly, filled with big ideas and big money. And then there was me, the quiet husband in the corner, the man Jenna had once trusted, now treated like an outsider. Her words, the beautiful apartment, the expensive designer, it all made me feel painfully small. I wasn't part of her world anymore, but that was also the night everything became clear. I saw exactly where Jenna was headed, and I saw exactly where I was standing. That realization didn't crush me, it woke me up. It showed me that if I wanted to rise, I couldn't stay the same man I was. I had to grow. I had to become better, stronger, more skilled, more confident. Not just for me, but because I didn't want to lose the woman I loved. I still saw the girl I married beneath all the changes, the one I supported, the one I believed in. I wanted to rise so I could stand beside her again, not behind her. I wanted to become someone she could look at with pride, not someone she felt she had outgrown. The morning after the unveiling dinner, I woke up with a different kind of silence around me. It wasn't the silence of an empty house. It was the silence that comes when something inside you has been shaken awake. I didn't waste time thinking about what Jenna said or how small I felt around her colleagues. Those thoughts had already done their damage. What stayed with me was the feeling that I had to move, forward, not backwards. So I got to work. I cleared my workshop, sorted through old projects, and threw out anything that didn't match the direction I wanted to go. I built a new digital portfolio from scratch, spent hours adjusting layouts, fixing colors, and taking better photos of my work. I watched tutorials late into the night, learning design styles I had ignored before. I studied what big firms were doing, not to copy them, but to understand where the industry was going. I reached out to people I hadn't spoken to in years, old clients, builders, developers, anyone who might need design work. Some didn't reply. Some did. A few gave me small jobs, and I took them all, using each one to push myself harder. As the weeks passed, the changes I made slowly started to show. My work improved. My designs looked sharper, cleaner, more modern. Clients who once saw me as just another small designer began to treat me with more respect. Some even recommended me to others, and little by little my name began to spread. But the progress didn't make Jenna any closer to me. She still spent most nights at the company apartment. Our conversations were short and rushed. She talked only about work, new pitches, new meetings, new pressure. Sometimes she would send a text late at night saying she was too busy to come home on weekends. I stopped arguing. I stopped asking when she would be back. The distance between us had grown so wide that pushing only made it worse. Still, I kept trying to be present. I would text her good morning and good night. I would ask how her day went, even if she replied with one-line answers. I held on to the hope that maybe if I improved myself enough, she would see me again. She would see the man she married, not the one she brushed aside at that dinner. But deep down, something felt wrong. The way she avoided our home, the way she avoided me, the strange energy around her. It all pointed toward a truth I didn't want to face. Something else was happening. Something I couldn't see yet. My business kept growing slowly, and for the first time in a long while, I began to feel proud of myself again. But even as my work improved, something about Jenna continued to bother me. She avoided home more than ever. Her excuses became shorter, colder. When she visited, she moved around like a stranger, rushing, restless, always checking the time. One evening, I noticed she didn't wear her wedding ring. When I asked about it, she said she forgot it at the apartment. She said it so casually that I almost believed her. Almost. But her eyes didn't match her voice. There was a distance in them I had never seen before. She also became protective of her phone. She kept it face down. She turned away when messages came in. She answered calls in the hallway or outside. Whenever I asked who it was, she always said, work. I wanted to trust her. I tried to push away the doubts. I told myself she was stressed, overworked, exhausted. But even when I tried to convince myself, something inside me kept whispering that the truth was getting harder to ignore. Her behavior wasn't just strange, it was secretive. And deep in my chest, a quiet fear started to grow. A fear that Jenna was living a life I knew nothing about. A few months after the unveiling dinner, I saw Adeline again at the supermarket. She recognized me quickly and walked over with a friendly smile. Marcus, right? Good to see you again, she said. I nodded politely. Good to see you too. As we talked, she mentioned the apartment naturally, like it was everyday conversation. I hope you're comfortable there. Jenna always says the place feels better with you around. My stomach tightened, but I kept my voice steady. Yeah, it's a nice place, I said, choosing my words carefully. I didn't want her to know I had only been there once in my life. Adeline reached for a carton of milk and added casually, those apartments are convenient. It's easier than driving across the city every day. She said it so simply that, for a moment, I wondered if I had misheard. But I hadn't. There was no stress in her tone, no hidden message. Just a normal comment, which meant one thing. The rule Jenna told me about was never real. A soft pressure built in my chest, but I forced a small smile. Yeah, that makes sense. Adeline didn't notice anything. Tell Jenna I said hi. I will, I lied. When I walked out of that supermarket, the truth followed quietly behind me. Jenna hadn't pushed me away because of a rule. She had pushed me away because she wanted distance. Leaving the supermarket that day, I couldn't shake the heaviness sitting in my chest. The truth about the apartment kept echoing in my mind. Jenna didn't keep me away because of some company rule. She kept me away because she wanted a life where I wasn't included. But even with that painful realization, I didn't confront her. I told myself I needed to stay calm, to watch, to understand what was really happening before I made any decisions. A few weeks later, I got a call from a potential client who wanted to meet at the Monarch Grand, one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. It felt like a big step for my business. I saw it as a sign that my hard work was starting to pay off. I arrived early, hoping to gather my thoughts before the meeting. The hotel was bright and polished, with marble floors and soft music floating through the air. As I walked toward the lounge area, I noticed a couple sitting close together, talking quietly. Then my body froze. It was Jenna and Ryan. They weren't sitting like colleagues. They weren't talking like coworkers. They were leaning into each other, touching hands, sharing a drink, laughing softly. The look on their faces was something I hadn't seen from Jenna in a long time. In that moment, everything connected. The distance, the lies, the coldness, the secrecy. It wasn't imagination anymore. It wasn't stress. It wasn't work. It was betrayal. For a moment, I couldn't move. I stood there in the middle of the hotel lobby, watching the two of them as if the world around me had paused. I wasn't prepared for the shock. I wasn't prepared for the pain. I wasn't prepared for the simple, cruel truth staring me in the face. Jenna saw me first. Her smile faded instantly. She froze, her hand still resting on Ryan's arm. Ryan turned too, his expression tightening the moment he recognized me. For a few seconds, none of us said anything. The silence between us felt louder than any sound in that grand hotel. I expected her to rush toward me. I expected her to explain. I expected her to at least look guilty. But instead, Jenna looked away. Ryan stood up, cleared his throat, and muttered, "We should go." And they did. They just left. No apology, no explanation, no attempt to fix anything. They walked past me like I was invisible, like everything I had seen meant nothing. I watched them disappear through the lobby doors, each step cutting deeper than the last. I didn't follow them. I didn't shout. I didn't cause a scene. I simply stood there, letting the truth settle into the deepest part of me. The woman I loved was gone long before that moment. I had only just caught up to the reality. After that day at the hotel, I moved through life in a quiet haze. I didn't confront Jenna. I didn't call her. I didn't even try to make sense of the betrayal. Something inside me had shut down. I focused only on my work, taking every new job like it was the only thing keeping me standing. But while I kept silent, the world around Jenna began to shake. I didn't know it at the time, but the company's accounting department had started investigating unusual client entertainment expenses. Some receipts didn't match any actual meetings. Some names didn't exist in their records. Some events had no documentation at all. Slowly, one by one, they traced the approvals back to Jenna. When they reached out to the major client Jenna claimed she was courting, the reply was simple and direct. "We have never met anyone from Jenna's team." That statement sent everything into motion. Meetings were scheduled. Questions were raised. Documents were pulled. Suddenly, Jenna's department was under review. Ryan sensed the pressure earlier than she did. He skipped meetings. He stopped responding to emails. Then one morning, he didn't show up at all. By the end of the week, he resigned without warning and vanished from the city. And just like that, the man Jenna had trusted more than her own husband was gone, leaving her to face everything alone. When Ryan disappeared, everything fell squarely on Jenna. The company called her in for questioning after discovering the false receipts and the mismatched reports. She tried to explain, but without Ryan, every lie pointed back to her. Every bill, every claimed dinner, every client meeting that never happened, all of it led straight to her desk. She tried to reach Ryan. He never answered. She tried to defend herself. No one believed her. By the end of that week, she was suspended while the investigation continued. I didn't know any of this yet. Jenna didn't tell me. She kept everything to herself, but I could sense something was wrong. She stopped coming home completely. Her texts became even shorter than before. Some days she didn't respond at all. Then one evening, she finally showed up at the house. Her eyes were tired, her shoulders low, her voice broken in a way I had never heard before. "I need to talk to you," she said. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands shaking. "Marcus, everything is falling apart." She told me about the fake meetings, the forged receipts, the travel that never happened, the money she spent because Ryan said it was necessary. She told me about the bonuses she used to cover some of the bills. Ryan lied about everything. As she spoke, I didn't interrupt. I just listened. For the first time in years, she wasn't the strong, ambitious woman I once knew. She was broken, and the truth had finally caught up with her. Jenna sat on the edge of the couch, her hands shaking so much she had to press them against her knees to keep them still. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded thin and tired, like she had been carrying the truth for far too long. "Marcus, there's more," she whispered. She told me about the long nights at the office, the pressure, the desperation to rise faster than she was ready for. But all of it was only the surface. The real truth came when she mentioned Ryan. "It didn't start as anything romantic," she said. "He made me believe he could help me land the big client. He made me feel like I was one step away from something great." Her eyes filled with tears as she continued. "The night at the hotel, I didn't plan it, but I didn't stop it either." Hearing those words felt like a knife pressed straight into my chest. All the distance, the excuses, the empty calls, they suddenly made sense. The apartment, the secrecy, the designer choice. None of those things came close to this. The affair was the wound that cut the deepest. She covered her face with her hands. "I was stupid, Marcus. I let him use me. I let everything slip out of control. And now I've lost everything." Her tears fell, but I stayed quiet. There were no words that could soften what she had confessed. And nothing in my life had ever hurt like that moment. Jenna kept crying, but the room felt strangely calm. I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I didn't ask for details I knew would destroy me even more. I just sat there listening to the sound of a marriage collapsing. For years I had imagined us growing old together. Now I was watching her crumble under the weight of choices I had never been part of. She said she lost her job, that the company terminated her for misconduct. The investigation proved she approved false receipts, claimed fake meetings, and used company funds based on lies Ryan fed her. The luxury apartment was gone. The respect she fought for was gone. The future she imagined was gone. "I don't know who I became," she whispered. "I don't know how I let everything slip away." But as she spoke, I realized something important. Her collapse did not heal what she had done to us. Losing her job didn't undo the nights she spent with him. Losing her reputation didn't erase the lies she told me for months. Losing Ryan didn't bring back the trust she broke the moment she gave herself to someone else. I felt tired, not angry, just tired in a way I had never known before. The kind of tired that comes when the heart stops fighting. I had already lost her long before this night. This was only the moment I accepted it. In the days that followed Jenna's confession, the house felt heavy with silence. She stayed in the guest room, moving quietly, almost afraid to step into my space. I didn't ask her to leave, but I didn't move toward her either. Something inside me had settled, not cold, not angry, just clear. While Jenna faced the pieces of her life falling apart, I kept building mine. My business was growing. New clients were calling. People were noticing my work. For the first time in years, I felt strong, steady, and sure of myself. I wasn't the man she dismissed at that dinner. I wasn't the man she hid from her colleagues. I had become someone new, someone I was proud to be. One evening, Jenna knocked softly on my door. Her eyes were red, her voice small. "Can we try again?" she asked. "Can we fix this?" I looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman I had loved, but not the woman who loved me back. Not anymore. Too much had been broken, and no amount of tears could rebuild what she had destroyed. "I wish you well, Jenna," I said gently, "but I can't stay." She cried again, but this time I didn't follow. I didn't comfort her. I didn't hold her. I walked away. Not with anger, but with peace, because in the end, I became the man she never thought I would be, and I didn't need her to see it for it to be true.